Now, the National Lotteries Commission chairperson, Prof Barney Pityana, and the Trade and Industry Minister, Ebrahim Patel, are concerned that no one has been formally charged and prosecuted for a multi-million rand fraud lottery scheme. The Special Investigating Unit at the SIU has been seeking to freeze assets linked to the lotteries body since late 2020, when President Cyril Ramaphosa authorised a probe into allegations of fraud and corruption. Now, the Special Investigating Unit has so far uncovered about 1.4 billion rand in looting at the National Lotteries Commission. To discuss this matter further, we are now joined via Zoom by the National Lotteries Commission Board Chairperson, Prof Barney Pityana, and the spokesperson of the Special Investigating Unit, Kaizer Kganyago. Gentlemen, thank you. It's a pleasure having you on the program. Thanks very much for being with us.
Good morning, Leanne. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Prof. Thanks. And Kaizer, you as well. Thank you. But, Prof, let me begin with you. Right up front, why has nobody been formally charged and prosecuted as yet?
That question should be directed to the National Prosecution Authority. The report we have from SIU is that the SIU has submitted some dockets to the NPA, and the decision to prosecute, as you know, in our law, belongs to the National Prosecutions Authority. And this is a matter of concern, obviously, for us, because we'd like to bring this matter to an end. We'd like to move the National Lotteries Commission forward. We'd like to settle these issues so that we can really get on with the business of the mission and mandate of the National Lotteries Commission.
Yeah. Kaizer, let me bring you in here. Before we speak about the SIU wanting to widen the scope of its probe to investigate procurements by the National Lotteries Commission, there are concerns in Parliament over the slow pace of prosecutions for lottery corruption. MPs are saying they hear a lot of investigating this and that, but they don't see anyone going to jail. Let's get your reaction to this.
Thank you very much, Leanne. What is really happening here is the law says that we need to give the information to the National Prosecuting Authority after we do an investigation and we find there is some criminality. And with our investigation at the NLC, we found that there has been some criminality, and we have already referred all of that to the NPA. What we have now done is to monitor the progress with the NPA. We know that they have allocated prosecutors to these matters, but therefore the decision still rests with them, and we are available to assist. We have signed a memorandum of understanding between ourselves and the NPA in January, and we are using that memorandum to monitor each other.
I mean, Prof Pityana, the people implicated in looting at the lottery, which amounts to more than 1.4 billion rand, according to SIU estimates, are known. Have you followed it up with the authorities? What are the reasons that no one is behind bars up until now? I know we keep looking to the NPA, but I mean, when we know the facts, why are we not seeing anything anyone being held accountable?
Well, the responsibility of the National Lotteries Commission, and indeed the responsibility of the minister, who is the executive authority of the National Lotteries Commission, was to do the right thing by seeking a proclamation and the investigation to be done by the SIU. The appropriate law enforcement authorities in investigation of this country are seized on this matter. And I think we should take it from there. The second thing that the SIU has done is that it has managed to freeze a number of assets from the people against whom there is a suspicion that they were involved in wrongdoing at the NLC. And thirdly, what the SIU is now open to approach the assets forfeiture unit to make sure that some money, this is another question that the minister is concerned about, is that we have not yet seen any forfeiture of assets as yet. And that also is important because these resources, according to the National Lotteries Act, are there to support good causes. And right now we are getting a mountain of requests from people who are desperate to meet the needs of the most needy of our people in our country. So really it's both those things, that both the assets forfeiture unit and the prosecutions that are actually quite critical. And we also welcome the move which we initiated, by the way, late last year after the report of our annual financial reports and the management letter that came from the Auditor General last year, and that as a board, the board sought to seek an extension of the proclamation in order to get the SIU also to investigate the issues that were raised by Nexia and also raised by the Auditor General, which by and large have something to do, which is very concerning, a continuing malfeasance with regard to our tenders in the NLC, and that's a matter that I think is also needy of urgent attention.
Which is Kaizer, where I bring you in here, because as I alluded to a bit earlier, the SIU wants to widen the scope of its probe to investigate procurement by the National Lotteries Commission. What have you uncovered that warrants you to widen your scope of investigation?
Thank you very much again, Leanne. What has happened here, like a professor is saying, the board of the NLC approached us together with the commissioner, the new commissioner, to say that there is also a problem that is here, but also our investigation had already found, we're in the process of dealing with grant funding, that there are some processes that were not followed in the side of procurement, but we couldn't get into the details of that because the proclamation that we have now doesn't allow us to go in there. Therefore, we had meetings between ourselves and the board together with the new commissioner, and we have then agreed that the information that they have should be brought to us, and then we will then take the ones that we have found also to put it together so that we evaluate and make sure that we then extend the scope of the investigation to allow us to go deeper into the issues that are not grant funding related, those that are related to the procurement side. And that is what we want to do as quickly as possible so that we can then continue with our investigation.
Yeah, and this is what's lagging. But I mean, Prof Pityana, the SIU has already referred 12 matters to the National Prosecuting Authority. Has the NPA given any clarity whatsoever as to what is happening to these cases?
Thank you very much, Leanne. We don't have a direct link to the NPA as the National Lotteries Commission. We get reports from the SIU who are linked to the NPA on these matters. But we've decided as a board that we will seek audience with the Director of the National Prosecutions Authority in order to get an insight ourselves, both in terms of what's holding these matters up and indeed what is it that we can do to assist in bringing these matters speedily to conclusion. We have an interest in the matters, obviously, and because of our interest, we will seek audience with the National Director of Public Prosecutions.
I mean, when you look into this, I mean, we see some of the damning reports by the Auditor General and also concerns raised by the Minister on the sky-high spending on legal fees. I mean, this is a massive one, and also all the irregular expenditure on information technology. So my question to you, Kaizer, is do you believe that the procurement fraud could be massive and it might implicate a lot of the NLC staff?
Yes, with the information that we have, Leanne, we believe that there might be a lot happening in the procurement side of things, because the information that we are evaluating now clearly points to that as the grant funding, because when we deal with granny, that we're involved in this grant funding. Therefore, we just hope it is not, because at the end of it all, once we get involved in this investigation, we'll get to the bottom of it and make sure that all the monies that have been taken away from the National Lottery Commission are brought back. You might have realized now that the house belonging to Terry Petro has now been sold, and that money will now be taken back to the National Lottery Commission so that it is used for what it was intended for. And we hope that the same will happen with our work between ourselves and the Asset Forfeiture Unit to do the same with all the other properties that we have freezed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have seen these high-profile cases, as you said, with Terry Petro being involved. What else is happening? I mean, obviously we hear about that, but what other cases have you looked into and retrieved monies?
Yes, in this particular instance, Leanne, you'll know that we are only dealing with the retrieving of the money, and we have freezed so many of the houses so far, and we're hoping that we will then get to the next step. In the case of Terry Petro's house, it was very easy because the lawyers, after realizing the evidence that we had before us, they approached us and said, we will not contest the forfeiture of this house. Therefore, that is why it was easy for us to move. But in the other instances, it has not happened that way. And what I can say to the public now is there are processes. There are many other properties that are involved, and we will, in the very near future, indicate which are these properties and where they are, who they belong to, and then we'll obviously, as we always do, make it public. But I can tell you now that there are more that we are looking at.
I suppose an important question also to ask is, yes, we do see, and referring to the issue around Terry Petro, so we do see the house being seized and very, very public, and we know all about this. We all know this, and it was very visible. But what happens next? So that, I mean, there were criminal issues at hand here as well. What is the next step, and what other repercussions are there?
Yes, obviously, we have sent these matters to the NPA, the criminal side of things, and that is what we are talking about. But also, we're talking to the National Lotteries Commission in cases where the people that are involved are still employees. We sent that to the National Lottery Commission for them to be disciplined. And you might be aware that a lot of the people have already been suspended, and they are going through processes as we speak in the National Lottery Commission.
Prof Pityana, there have also been people on the board that serve with you that have been implicated. What has happened to them?
Well, I'm not aware of anybody in the board, in the current board, who's been implicated, because we have a new board now.
I beg your pardon, it wasn't, not the board, sorry, Prof, my wrong, that are working at the Commission. I beg your pardon, certainly not on the board.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that work at the Commission.
Working at the Commission at the moment. As Kaizer has just said, we're going through disciplinary processes, and those are happening as we speak.
Okay.
And it is important for us that these matters be dealt with, because it affects the environment a working environment in the NLC. It affects the culture of the organization that we want to correct. It means that the governance issues are at a standstill. So we really do need to have these settled. But I must say that we're getting cooperation from more than just the SIU, etc. For example, we find that we're getting reports from whistleblowers on suspicious transactions. Our banks are also able to notice suspicious transactions and draw our attention to this. As a result of that, the scope of, in reality, the scope of disciplinary actions against certain people, the Commissioner has stopped all the contracts with a whole number of lawyers that you mentioned, Leanne, already. We also stopped some payments to some other sports clubs that were seemingly suspicious. The transactions were suspicious. So those have been stopped. And so also have we already stopped the panel of lawyers that you were referring to. Yeah. So a lot is happening, and in the cleaning up of the organization, and we want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned, and that the staff in the organization can carry on with the work that they're supposed to do.
If I can ask you to further elaborate, sports clubs, which sport clubs are you referring to?
We at the end of last year, we were alerted to grants that were being made to what seemingly were clubs that were being diverted away from those clubs to some individuals' accounts. And I think it's called, Kaizer, if I'm not mistaken, it's called hijacking of grants that is happening. So we can only do that if a suspicious transaction and the movement of funds quickly from one account to the other are brought to our attention. Yeah. And because of that, we've been able to take action to stop payments immediately in several of cases, mostly in Limpopo, I think. At least at the last count, it was in Limpopo, but we are very alert, and the bank is also very alert to all of these transactions and payments. Yeah, yeah. The commissioner has stopped all the panel of lawyers. We've removed all of those lawyers, and we're now dealing with the lawyers that we are actually working with on the disciplinary matters only.
Yeah, what an intricate scheme that is happening at the moment. And it just the reality is as we keep saying, this money is meant to be directed towards people who desperately need it, and that just does not seem to be happening. Kaizer, just very, very quickly, I know that the SIU's hands are tied. I mean, we go back to 2020. The proclamation was signed by the president that only allowed it to investigate corruption that involved grants. Has the president extended the lottery probe at all? Have you heard anything from the presidency?
Not as yet, because the process is still underway. The matter has not even landed on the president's desk yet, because there are processes that happen prior to that. Therefore, once all of that is done, we will know what the outcome will be. But obviously, the president always signs the request that we bring to his attention.
Thank you very much. And then just finally, my last question, sorry, I am running into news, but it is important to address the whistleblowers, because there have been many, Professor, this is for you, there have been many concerns about the whistleblowers and how they are exceptionally concerned about their safety, exceptionally concerned about what they call victimization, occupational detriment at the hands of those who today stand accused of very serious corruption. Where are the whistleblowers, and what is the situation like now for them?
Thanks, Leanne, for raising that. We're similarly concerned, and we're looking at various ways in which the plight of the whistleblowers that has been brought to our attention. Because an organization like this, we do rely on whistleblowers really bringing matters to our attention, because we cannot be everywhere. But when whistleblowers take certain actions, obviously they take risks, and they rely on protection for the work that they do. Now, there are two sides to the question you raised. One is that we have strengthened the independence of the whistleblower hotline. Now we have it through the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and we are reviewing the reports that we get and investigating them. And action is being taken accordingly.
All right.
The second thing that we're doing, which is maybe what you are referring to, is what do we do about those who have been victimized as a result? They've lost their jobs, and with all the consequences that go with it. And it's a matter that we need to deal with in a great deal of depth and a lot of care. Yeah. And all I can say at the moment is that we are working on it, and we're trying to see how best we can assist those people.
All right, Prof, I have to leave it there. Thank you. Professor Barney Pityana, National Commission Board Chairperson and Special Investigating Unit Spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago.